staring at Councillor Richardson to make sure that we have some semblance of a spot. Okay. Okay, good. Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth. Our meeting date is Monday, August 22nd, 2022. I'm Mayor Todd Kasenberg and I'll call this meeting to order. I ask the clerk to note our starting time for the minutes as 7 p.m. Councillors are in the council chamber in Listowel, joined by the clerk, team and IT staff who apparently are remote tonight. Indeed, we have other staff with us this evening, though, and I'm glad to see their faces with us. We are still supported by various digital technologies with staff and others having opportunity to use our web conferencing tool, and members of the public still invited to our live stream on YouTube. We begin tonight's meeting with the playing of O Canada. Those in chambers are invited to stand as able. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe peoples. We wish to recognize the long history of Indigenous peoples in Canada and show our respect to them today. We recognize their stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship. Tonight's meeting is being streamed live on the Municipality of North Perth YouTube channel and will be available there after the meeting as an archived video. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of the Council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded, and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The Chair and/or the Clerk have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances when deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behavior and/or comments. Thank you. Welcome to those who are joining us via the YouTube channel. Welcome to councillors and staff who will participate in the meeting tonight. At this time, I invite your decorum over the course of the meeting. I do have what seem like regrets from Councillor Dave Johnston tonight. He may appear later if he does manage to make it tonight, so we will wait and see how that works out. Let us move to item 2.1 of our agenda pertaining to pecuniary interest. For the benefit of those unfamiliar with our council practices, Provincial legislation requires councillors with a potential pecuniary or financial interest in any item at the council table to declare this interest and to remove her or himself from discussions and voting on the item. In accordance with recommended protocol at this time, I invite all councillors with perceived pecuniary interest, including those who have already declared in writing, to verbally advise the chair in public session and to submit documentation to this effect in writing to the clerk. Councillors are further reminded that should a potential conflict arise during the meeting, they may so declare or enact at any point in the meeting. Colleagues, I invite your declarations at this hour. We're not seeing anyone making a declaration in the chamber, which means we can move forward. As noted already, some staff are remote tonight and availing themselves of web conferencing technologies to participate in the meeting. These are invited to speak when called upon by yours truly. Should any wish to be recognized, they should draw attention to themselves through our conferencing technologies chat function, which is being monitored by the clerk. Remote participants are asked to generally maintain a mute state in the web conference until they have been recognized by me. If, when I do so recognize, I don't hear that participant because you are muted or are having some technical difficulty, I will advise. I invite patience, as always, from all, as we have still quite a few moving parts to make this meeting function well. There may be moments when I'm just a little slow to trigger things and moments where I miss a camera cue. Regarding item 2.2 of our agenda this evening, I'm going to call on North Perth Clerk Lindsay Klein, who will advise Council of a revision to the proposed agenda tonight. Welcome, Ms. Klein.
Good evening, Council. Just a revision to the agenda, item 7.1. The Listowel Agricultural Society has advised that they no longer need to use the traffic safety cones from the municipality, so we can remove item 7.1, and as such, we can approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. So I do have a resolution that has been prepared for us that reflects that amendment as follows: that the agenda for tonight's meeting be approved as amended to remove item 7.1 regarding correspondence from the Listowel Agricultural Society. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Richardson, thank you, and Councillor Ansted will be our seconder. Any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Now, let's move forward to item 3 on our agenda, the so-called consent agenda. These items are placed on our agenda because they are believed to be non-contentious, yet they require Council's recognition and/or action. Grouping them expedites our business. However, any councillor wishing to extract an item from the consent agenda for discussion, debate, and individual action may do so. There are 7 items on our consent agenda tonight, including the minutes of our last regular council meeting. Councillors, do any of you have a desire to extract any of these items for further discussion or action? Councillor Rothwell, welcome tonight. You have the floor.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd. I'd just like to highlight item 3.6, which is the Huron Perth Public Health Letter of Thanks.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. And it was a kindness certainly coming from the health unit to express appreciation for the efforts that have been made by this council and perhaps more importantly by the staff of the corporation in helping us see our way through the pandemic. As the letter does point out, the game ain't over yet, but let's hope for continuing better days as we move forward. Any other wishes for extraction from the consent agenda at this hour? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I have a resolution for consideration, Council, as follows. The consent items 3.1 to 3.7 be received for information, and the minutes of the August 8th, 2022 regular council meeting be adopted. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Rothwell, thank you. And our seconder will be Councillor Behrens, thank you. Any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. That allows us to move forward to agenda item number 4. In what feels like a rare moment, we don't have any public meetings this evening, nor do we have any delegations or requests for delegations this evening, which allows us to move forward indeed to item 5, reports from our departments and key staff. We have no reports from the CIO's department tonight. From that department, I know that a lot of work is going on, and there have been a few staff changes and so forth that have been undertaken. So we know that it's a busy place. Next up then is item 5.2, reports from Corporate Services Department. We have no report indicated from our Corporate Services Department tonight as item 5.2. That allows me to move down the road to item 5.3 and item 5.4, both programs and facilities. Again, no reports submitted for our consideration tonight. Which brings us to the friendly face of Mr. Hackett and item 5.5. Mr. Hackett is our Manager of Environmental Services. Smile, I said friendly. And as item 5.5.1, Council is presented with an update on the processing or composting of household organic waste. It would seem that our current recycling provider, the Blue Water Recycling Association, is moving to implement a green bin program at some point in the relatively near future. So, Mr. Hackett, you're standing there. Let's hear about this. Hold on. Let me get the podium. I got to press the right button here. Now you can go.
Thank you, Mayor Council. As you mentioned, there are a number of options available for. Does that sound better? Okay, perfect. So there are a number of options available for municipal residents who wish to recycle their organic waste. Some of them exist today, and some of them hopefully potentially in the near future. So I'd like to review each of the options that we have and then take any questions that council could have. So option 1 is the backyard composters. Those are the black ones that have been around for a long time. They can take kitchen scraps, leaves, and yard waste and things like that. They're no longer available from Blue Water Recycling Association. Okay, sorry. Those bins those composters are no longer available from Blue Water Recycling or the municipality, but they are available from any of the local hardware stores if people are interested in composting that way. The second option is the green cone digesters, and they've been around for a number of years as well. They're a natural system that breaks down food waste and in a backyard solar heated unit. They are available from Blue Water, and they're available through the municipality as well, and they cost $135 per unit. That leads us to option 3, which is indoor composters. And they are basically a countertop appliance that uses hydro to convert food waste to a nutrient-rich soil. There's a number of different manufacturers of these that produce indoor composters, and they range in price from $500 to $700 each. They're typically popular where curbside green bin programs are not available. So at the March 7th meeting of council this past year, there was a delegation from a company called Food Cycler Science, and they proposed a 12-week pilot project for their product, which is called the Food Cycler. And they recommended a sample size of 200 units, so that would allow 200 residents to try this product. And as I said, their units cost $500, and the proposed program would include a 40% subsidy by the manufacturer, so that would take $200 off that price, and also a 25% municipal subsidy, which would take another $125, while the remaining $175 would be paid by the people that participated in the program. So the total cost for the pilot project for the municipality would be $25,000 to do those 200 units. Participants then in the pilot program would be allowed to keep the unit when the 12-week program was over, and they'd have to keep track of things and answer some questions in a survey at the end as well. Most of the municipalities, and there's a number of them that have run this program, they're smaller than the municipality of North Perth, and those municipalities do not offer curbside green bin recycling. So, and if the program was to be offered after the pilot program, consideration would need to be given to the municipal cost of participating in the program for potentially thousands of customers in North Perth. So the fourth option is a curbside green composting service. And that had not been an option available through BRA until very recently. While they had the ability to collect organic material, they had no access to any processing facility. And now they have two different facilities that they're able to utilize. And so that they're now happy to be offering a green bin program. We get a lot of calls at the municipality about that potential, so I'm really happy to see that that's something that could be in the works. They propose a green bin. The green bin would be collected on a weekly basis, and then the garbage and recycling would be bi-weekly. So that would be a change for all the urban areas. It would be the same for any rural areas that might be interested in it. And also it would help to keep the system as efficient as possible. Looking at some of the financial implications, both of the different backyard composters and the green cone digesters are available to the public right now to purchase with no cost to the municipality. To implement the food cycler pilot program, the municipality, as I mentioned, it would cost them about $25,000 for the 200 participants. Details of the costs related to the Blue Water recycling green bin curbside collection service are not available at this time. And there are a few things to consider about that too, mainly about the timing and the costs related to the Blue Box program. So the Blue Box program, as we know, is changing. We're scheduled to go in April of 24. So Blue Water has recommended that we probably wouldn't move forward until that time. So I had a couple other comments about both of those units. A food cycler, just some simple math. If the municipality continued to offer in the future the $125 subsidy, it would be quite expensive because it would, even for 1,000 units, that'd be $125,000. Not sure how long the units are expected to last. And there's also filters that would need to be purchased and they get replaced twice a year, I believe, depending on use. And the other key point, I think, is that if we were to run the pilot program upon completion, we would most likely have to go to some type of an RFP process because there are numerous companies that make that same product. They're just different names. So we would probably have to go through that process as well. For the Curbside Green program, again, the costs are unknown at this time. And also BRA's role moving forward with the Blue Box program in 2024 is unknown at this time, so we're not even completely sure that they would be involved. So I don't know that we'd want to move to it at that quickly. So we're probably looking at most likely maybe 2023 or 2024 before we would move to a green bin program. So that's the report that I have, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions about it.
Thank you, Mr. Hackett. Councillors, questions, comments? Councillor Richardson first. Let me get your microphone. There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Hackett. Very good report. Just a question. How big are the proposed green bins? Like, are they the same size that I've seen in other municipalities, or do we know?
I do not know yet. I would assume they'd be a much smaller bin than the current.
Seen other ones that are about yay by.
Yes.
You made mention that the garbage collection would change into the urban area to being bi-weekly. Is that for what reason? To keep it efficient when I understand that the rural is bi-weekly, but with the urban areas going bi-weekly as well, that would probably not go over very well.
I think
or not.
I think the idea is if people participate in the program, all the stinky garbage that people want to get rid of on a weekly basis would be being collected in your green bin, all your food scraps and things like that. So your garbage that you would collect would be smaller in volume, substantially smaller, that would go into the garbage bins. So they would easily be able to last 2 weeks instead of a week if you participated in the program.
And if you didn't, would your weekly pickup still change?
Your weekly pickup would change. Yes, that's what they're proposing anyway, and that would all have to be ironed out. But Again, it would be a level of service that the municipality or the council would choose to provide. And depending on the cost of it, it could still be have garbage picked up weekly, but that's not what they're recommending at this time. It's still really early stages. I don't
Understood.
believe that anyone has made any commitment to move forward with this program yet, but I think there's a lot of excitement about it. That there's, that's probably the biggest question I get now. Besides, what are the landfill hours?
Okay, thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Behrens, let me get your microphone. There you go.
No,
Oh.
question, but just a comment.
Can you turn your green button on there?
My apologies. Not a question mark, just a comment. I do believe that your recommendation is correct in that we wait for blue water. I don't really see the every other week for garbage as an issue. Like Mr. Hackett has said, anything that causes a smell, and that was the concern in town, should potentially be in the waste diversion box. My concern, and I know Mr. Councillor Rothwell is on the blue water recycling, sometimes the bins are too small because a lot of people have a tendency, and I guess it depends on what you're collecting, because if you're collecting yard waste and stuff like that as well, the little bins that I've seen, like they're, not that big, and I'm just wondering if there's got to be some investigation or studies or whatever that I hope we don't go with. I mean, we've all seen the little wee containers as well, so I do believe that blue water, with the changing in the recycling program, has a history with providing an excellent service to this municipality, of which we were members of as well. So I don't see any reason why we wouldn't wait for blue water to roll theirs out. The cost effectiveness of the other options right now, they're not cost effective. They're very expensive for dealing with one product. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Further comments or questions? Councillor Rothwell, let me get your microphone here. There we go.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd, and thanks, Mark, for your report. Further to Councillor Behrens, certainly my experience on blue water recycling, as well as with the City of Stratford, which has a contract with BRA for the recycling. BRA does not pick up their green bins. They are the small bins, about 2.5 feet tall or 3. It is only for food scraps and so on that go in there. There's a separate yard waste days and so on, which makes it more of a fair volume to be collected simply with those the green bins that they use. It is problematic in terms of rolling out the program, in terms of where that material is going to be composted and so on. As Mark mentioned, there's 2 sites. One is in London and one's not far away from London, so not particularly close to here. Nevertheless, those are details which Blue Water Recycling Association is looking at, but there's a lot of work yet to be done. So I think I certainly concur, as does Councillor Behrens and perhaps others, that this is the prudent recommendation, and I'd be pleased to move that when we get to that point. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rothwell. Any other questions, comments at this point in time around this matter? I can say that when I lived in Kitchener, certainly they rolled out the green bin program to households in Kitchener. It's an enormous effort. To convince people that they need to change their habits is iffy at the best of times. And certainly around waste diversion, it's difficult to sort of rein in everybody inside a household. So there certainly is a lot of change that is represented by rolling one out. That said, I think some of the earlier challenges associated with the green bin program in Kitchener, which involved smell and the maintenance and cleanliness of the bin after you pulled out the bags, which sometimes broke. I think a lot of that stuff has been sort of technically resolved over the years, so it may be more acceptable than it was then, 6 years ago, when I was facing that program in Kitchener. Anyone else with comments, questions? Okay, so staff has made a recommendation towards just furthering our investigation with BRA. The resolution that's proposed is as follows, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth directs staff to further investigate the details involved for the implementation of a green bin organic collection service to be provided by the Blue Water Recycling Association. Councillor Rothwell has expressed an intent to serve as mover. Councillor Seiler will second that. Thank you. Any discussion or debate on the resolution? Seeing none, let's have that vote. Again.
Mayor Todd, I am in favor, but my computer's doing strange things.
Oh, probably. Okay, so please mark Councillor Behrens in favor. And Councillor Andreessen as well. Okay, so we're seeing a little bit of glitching in the technologies, but it looks like we have online votes accounted for at this point, so that is carried. Thank you, Mr. Hackett, for your thorough report. Let's move forward then to item 5.6. This is reports from our Manager of Operations. Item 5.6.1 invites Council to award a contract for the supply and delivery of a truck for use by our operations team to Larry Hudson Chevrolet Buick GMC of Listowel for the amount of $99,327, HST excluded. Do we have Mr. Couch with us remotely? So let's bring in Lyndon Couch. He's our Manager of Operations to discuss this with us. Mr. Couch, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg, members of council. This was deferred from last year due to unavailability of cabs and chassis from the various vendors. This year we did put the tender out. We received 2 bids back, as you can see, one from a Chrysler dealer and one from the local Chevrolet Buick dealership. The low bid, surprisingly, was within the budget that we had set. We had modified and reduced the size of the dump body, and that helped to reduce costs. And the award is for the truck to come from the local vendor, Hudson Chevrolet, for the amount of $99,327 as discussed. The existing unit has had some significant repair needs over the last 2 years. It's 12 years old and is definitely in need of replacement. So we're hoping there'll be a reasonable delivery timeline for this unit and be available to us likely in the spring. If there's questions, I can answer any on the unit or the replacement of the old unit.
Thank you, Mr. Couch, for the report. Councillors, any questions or comments? Councillor Enstedt, welcome.
Thank you, Mark Kasenberg, through you. Thanks, Lyndon, for the report. Just one question. I didn't see it listed. Was there any trade-in value on the old unit?
No, not here. We found that the use of the auction systems that are available to municipalities get higher values, so the trade wouldn't be accepted in this case, and it would be likely sent to auction after this.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or first comments about this matter? All right, so we have a resolution to consider about this then, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth awards the tender for the supply and delivery of one-ton heavy-duty 4x4 DRW chassis regular cab with an 11-foot 6-inch dump body NP-024-22T to Larry Hudson Chevrolet Buick GMC for a total of $99,327 excluding HST. Can I call for a mover on this? Councillor Duncan will move. Thank you. And Councillor Seiler will be our seconder. Any discussion or debate? I know nothing about trucks, so everything I just read was absolutely unintelligible to me, I have to admit. No questions or comments or debate. Let's have the vote. And that is carried. And Mr. Couch, thank you for the report, and you'll have to show me this truck afterwards and explain what all of that meant, just so that I know in the future. Appreciate it. All right, I believe that's it for that department. That allows us to move to item 5.7, reports from Development and Protective Services Department. For item 5.7.1, we have, I think we have that one first, actually. Right, yes, thank you. The Manager of Development and Protective Services brings forward a report earlier requested by this council pertaining to matters of cat control in our community. I'll call on that manager, Jenny Pape, to provide us with more information and to answer any questions. Chief Pape, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. Good evening, members of council. As Mayor Kasenberg mentioned, this report has been brought to you and prepared at the request of council due to a complaint received from a North Perth resident. Abandoned and feral cats, it's not a new issue in North Perth or in other jurisdictions. Previously, North Perth had included cats in its animal control bylaw. However, very few cat owners registered their cats. Cats being slightly different than dogs, we have fewer cats running at large. If they're domesticated, they are mostly being kept indoors. And with so few registrations back then, there was very little revenue that was generated. Unfortunately, at the time, we did receive, the municipality did end up with a large number of unregistered cats surrendered to the municipality, and those cats, when unclaimed, were euthanized, which was an expensive process, and also it was difficult, if not impossible, for us to determine if those cats actually even originated in North Perth. And so as a result, back then, council rescinded that bylaw. But as a result of the recent complaint, I have discussed the situation with Stratford Perth Humane Society, and they were unable to provide costing. So I did do some research to look into other jurisdictions to see what they are doing with respect to cats. It appears that jurisdictions that are larger than North Perth that have designated animal control officers sometimes undertake the process of registering cats and having animal control to include cats. But more frequently, we see jurisdictions that just undertake to register them. Having said that, as our previous history indicates, that may not be a successful approach. Stratford Perth Humane Society is available to assist with sick and injured cats, as well as they will accept stray cats if they're and resources allows arrange to have stray cats. So that is my report to council. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Yeah, Chief Pape, we lost you a little bit in the audio at some point. Perhaps you can turn the audio off. You were telling us that Stratford Perth Humane Society can help with certain circumstances of cats, injured cats and so forth, and they will accept some strays, and then we lost you at that point. So do you mind sort of summarizing the end of your comments?
Of course. So Stratford Perth Humane Society will help if there's a sick or an injured cat, more of an emergent sort of situation. And they will accept stray cats if they have resourcing and space. And that isn't always the case. And so cats can be put on a wait list, but as I understand it, the complaint truly was an issue of cats being dropped off or abandoned at the end of someone's driveway. So again, Stratford Perth Humane Society may not have room to accept those strays. So then the situation remains regardless if we have a contract with them or not. They just don't always have the resourcing or the space to accept stray cats.
Okay, thank you. That helps clarify the end of your comments. All right, council questions or first comments on the update that we received from Chief Pape? Councillor Andreessen.
Thank you. There, is that better? Okay. Thank you through you, Mayor Kasenberg. And thank you to Chief Pape for doing some research in terms of the concerns with stray cats in North Perth. I certainly find it unfortunate for our North Perth residents who are struggling with this, that the resources to support them with abandoned and stray cats seems to be very limited. And we don't seem to have answers at this point, but I do appreciate all the work that you've done to provide us with the detail and the history of what's happened in the region in the past. At this time, I don't really see any ways moving forward in terms of either registering cats or even finding support through the Stratford Humane Society. So I feel like we're just providing a report at this time, but I do thank you for that.
Thanks, Councillor Andreessen. Anyone else with the questions or comments at this point? Okay, I have a resolution for consideration, essentially to receive this report as follows. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives this report regarding cat control for information. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Estet, thank you. And seconder will be Councillor Andreessen. Thank you. Any discussion or debate on that? Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks, Mayor Todd, and thank you, Chief Pape, for the report. I'm wondering if it would be prudent for our municipality to encourage cat owners to keep their cats on their own property, likewise dogs, perhaps as the less expensive alternative to this, and perhaps that becomes sort of an annual exercise that hopefully would have the complainants in this case know that we take their concerns seriously, but also to give awareness to, well, I'll say pet owners, not just cats, but dogs as well, to have make sure that they're on their own property or on a leash, as the case may be. Thanks.
Thank you. Seems like a reasonable suggestion. Chief Pape, I'm going to assume you heard Councillor Rothwell's suggestion, and there may be opportunity. Perhaps it can be tagged with tax bills and into the social media at a certain point in the year.
For sure, we can undertake that process, yes.
Thanks. Good helpful suggestion. Thanks, Councillor Rothwell. All right. Did we have this vote? It's moved, right? Moved and seconded? We haven't taken the vote yet. Let's have the vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Pape. Next up then is item 5.7.2. Now it's your turn, Ms. Reid. This advises Council of an application for a subdivision heading to the County Council table for a public meeting on September 1st pertaining to lands in the Wallace Ward for which there is a proposition for residential development. This is an opportunity for this council to review and comment ahead of the County Council meeting, the public meeting that County Council will hold. Susanna Reid, Senior Planner at the County of Perth, is the planning lead on this file, and she's going to introduce it for us. Thank you and welcome, Ms. Reid.
Thank you very much. One moment while I see if I can share my presentation. Okay, thanks for your patience. So, good evening, Mayor Kaysenberg and Council. As the Mayor's mentioned, this is two plans of subdivision which are brought to North Perth Council for your information and comments before the public meeting on September 1st at County Council. The file numbers you can see on the screen are NP 2201 and NP 2202. The applicant is Steve Mullenstein, and Patterson Planning Consultants is the agent for the file. So the red star on the north end of Listwell is the location of the proposed development, and there are two plans of subdivision in this area. So the red line outlines. Oops, it didn't advance there. Are you sure? Is this my screen? Isn't that weird? It's in the full screen on mine. I'm afraid I'm having technical difficulties. I'll try again. Yeah.
To those who are watching, we're just troubleshooting some technical challenges with the display of the planner's computer. It looks like we're back. Can you try the screen presentation mode? There's a little button on the bottom toolbar towards the volume controls.
It's showing on her laptop, but I'm not sure why it's not.
Okay.
All right, my apologies. So this is the location of the two applications. So NP 2201 is on the south end of Walton Ave. NP 2202 is north of that application. So both properties are designated urban fringe in the County of Perth official plan. That's the purple designation. And you can see here both applications are outlined in red again. And I'll just make the point that this dotted line here is the boundary between the Listowel official plan to the south and the county official plan. So the urban fringe designation is in the county official plan. Here is an outline then of NP 2201, which is 2.2 acres in area, and there are 6 residential lots proposed here. And here is 2202, which is 3.9 acres in area, and there are 15 lots proposed here. And you can see that 6 of these lots front Walton Avenue, and then the 3 lots here, which are behind this residential property, which is 1030 Walton Avenue, are proposed to be accessed via an easement, which would be both the access for car traffic and also be a servicing easement. So the planning report, which is in Council's package tonight, reviews the planning issues, and that's the report that is on County Council's agenda as well for September 1st. And I'll just highlight some of the planning issues that are identified. So the first point is with regards to residential density. And again, as the application is in the county official plan, we don't have access to the residential density policies that are in the residential designation in the Listowel official plan. However, they are referred to in the planning report for context. So the red area is the existing development on Walton Avenue. And these red lots, the density is 1 lot per hectare. The green area here, which is typical of a residential density, low density development in Listowel, the density here is 11 lots per hectare. And the proposed density for the NP 2201 and NP 2202 is 6 and 7 lots per hectare. And then for context purposes, you can see in the planning report, the low density development in the Listowel official plan is, as defined by the Listowel official plan, is 10 to 25 units per hectare. The second issue I wanted to identify is the design of the subject site, specifically the lots at the north, NP 21 or 2202. One of the considerations that's offered by the Planning Act is the dimension and the shapes of the proposed lots. And just to point out that the reason why the lots are configured the way they are is because a stormwater management pond is proposed here. So that creates design challenges for this area at the north part of the proposed development. With these three lots being flagpole shaped, so proposed to be accessing Walton Avenue via easements. So while this is technically possible, perhaps it's not the most conducive to the community design in this part of the municipality. And then the final issue that I wanted to raise was with regards to affordable and attainable housing as it's being addressed with all residential developments. The planning justification report prepared by the planner's consultant makes the point that the listable official plan affordable housing policies are not relevant to the application because the application is informed by the County of Perth official plan. And I raised that for information and discussion purposes. So those are all of the planning comments with regards to the application.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Reed. Let's turn to council questions or first comments on this. I think, where we're going with regards to the resolution is that we're receiving the report acknowledging that County Council will be holding a public meeting on this on the 1st of September. But this is our opportunity as a council to discuss and perhaps have some input into that process. So, comments. Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks very much, Todd and Mayor Todd, and thanks, Susanna, for the report. Susanna, you do outline the difference between densities in the urban fringe area and the listable area. And primarily, just to confirm, that's on the basis that full municipal services are available in listable currently, whereas full municipal services at this time are not available in this area. Is that correct?
Well, I appreciate your comments, given your history with the Perth County Planning Department. The development is proposed to be developed on full services.
Just further, so up until this point, though, all the other lots are on individual private servicing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, the red lots that I showed on the screen are informed by rural densities, as those lots are privately serviced. The new lots, the lots that are proposed by the two applications that Council is receiving tonight are proposed to be on full municipal services.
Just my last comment. Generally speaking, it's hoped that on full municipal services, we're going to have greater densities. That's the general hope from a land use planning perspective and certainly from affordability. I think the configuration of these lots that are proposed are sort of do constrain that, but I'm more advocating for a higher density than what we're seeing in these two applications. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you for getting to the point. All right. Any other comments or questions at this point on this one? Councillor, Deputy Mayor Kellum. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor Kasenberg, and thank you for the report, Suzanne. Can you give me an idea when this file initially started, a rough date?
Thank you for the question. I don't know when the pre-consultation was. I believe that the planning department received the application in this spring.
Okay. Just the spring, but it was in discussion prior to that, I would assume. And in that conversation prior to that, was the municipality, specifically senior management, not working with this developer on maybe a land swap or a sale of property for the storm water management plan to make things happen so we could be cooperative on both sides?
I have been informed that the municipality was in conversation with the developer with regards to the swim pond. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Barons.
Just a comment, and Deputy Mayor Kellum has alluded to the fact that this particular piece of property has been in a planning stage for quite a while. And the developer has worked with North Perth so that we could put our swim pond where it works best for us and utilizes our property more, I believe, to the north. My concern is now, because of those discussions, this I believe is a one-off. Like it is not within the Listowel official plan. It is in the Perth County plan. And as you have showed on your slides, the density is actually average for the area, with some of the densities being way lower than that for the actual development area. So I think it behooves North Perth Council, because we were dealing in good faith with this developer in working for what was best for us for the swim pond. That isn't ideal, perhaps not, but I think as this council, the current council, we have somewhat given our word to this developer that we will be reasonable in the expectation of how he can develop those lands, because you can see by the mapping there were other ways that he could have developed it had he not chose to work with the municipality on the swim pond. That's my comment. So I believe we should support it.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Any other comments or questions at this point? I will observe that while I have concerns about the density, there's some, we're sort of playing fast and loose with two official plans, and it's hard to draw the right conclusions from the Listowel plan for that area, because that is in the county's official plan area. So I think that we're in an interesting position. I agree that from a negotiations perspective, we sent signals when we were seeking to build our stormwater management pond that we would be cooperative and supportive. I have to admit, I really would like to see the developer consider the flag-shaped area and increase the density there by putting an apartment building or condo or something that is more high density. But I'm not going to hold him to it at this point in time, given the history of negotiations and so forth from my perspective. So I agree with Councillor Barron's very cogent observations. As much as I'm uncomfortable with the density, you're quite right. It's better than the density that's in the immediate surrounding neighborhood, and that's saying that there's been some effort by the developer. Any other questions or comments before we consider a resolution here? Deputy Mayor Kellum.
And through Mayor Caseberg, one last comment to Suzanne. So streamlining the process just to get a hand on it. So tonight, the information is being prepared August 22nd, and then the public meeting will be September 1st. And then after that, there'll be a public meeting for the zoning bylaw amendment. Is that correct? Or
Typically, would you like me to take this question? Yeah, through you, Mayor Casenberg. The process would usually see the plan of subdivision draft approved prior to the zoning bylaw amendment. But
okay, so
that would be the usual process, but it would be possible to have the public meeting for the rezoning as well.
okay. Okay, good. That's fine.
Any other questions or comments at this point? Okay, I have a resolution here essentially acknowledging that we've had a chance to talk about this and that the county's going to receive the opportunity to talk some more. So as follows, that the council of the municipality of North Perth receives a report titled Subdivision Application NP 2201 and NP 2202 Sound 6 Investments affecting lands described as part of Park Lot A and B, Registered Plan 290, and also part of Park Lot A and 5, Registered Plan 290, Wallace Ward, Municipality of North Perth, for discussion in advance of the public meeting scheduled for September 1st, 2022, meeting of Perth County Council. Can I invite over Councillor Barons? Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Callum will be our seconder here. Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. Thanks, Councillor Duncan. Councillor Duncan is in favor. So the tech has got some ghosts in the machine tonight. That is carried. Thank you. Ms. Reid, I assume that you'll have generally the comments of this council available to County Council on the occasion of its public meeting. Ms. Klein, am I roughly right? Like, there were a few comments made, but
my understanding is that you received the report. So I would assume that the county would receive correspondence to that effect, and we would add it to the council agenda for September 1st.
very good. Thank you. And if any councillors wish to attend the public meeting, that is certainly an option available to us each individually if we so choose. Councillor Barnes, did you have a question?
Is it inappropriate at this time to send a motion saying we're in support of the application?
You certainly could do that. Yep, that would be the intention of the discussion tonight. Is
okay, because the motion didn't actually say that we were in support, just that we received it, right?
Right.
Yes, to make a distinction between the planning department's recommendation and North Perth's discussion. If North Perth Council has any comments that they would like to provide to County Council, that would be certainly within your purview.
Thank you. Mayor Kasenberg, I would make the motion that North Perth support that planning application, both applications.
Sure. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Barons to the effect that this council expresses support for the subdivision applications from, what are they called? Sound 6 Investments. The files are NP22-01 and MP22-02. I'm assuming that this is a seconding from Councillor Duncan. Thank you. Any discussion or debate on this one? All right, seeing none, let's have the vote. I'm hoping that Deputy Clerk Jameson is on it.
Oh, sorry, mine didn't come up.
Okay, we'll take that in a moment.
I am in favor.
Yes. Okay, so Councillor Barons is in favor, and Councillor Rothwell? You're marked as opposed? All right, yes, that is carried 8-1. Thank you. All right, let's move forward then. I think we are where we need to be here. We have finished all the reports from the key departments. And that brings us to item 6 on our agenda. For item 6.1, councillors, are there any reports you would like to ask of staff or of our committees at this time? I'm seeing no expression of consent or interest there. So let's move forward to item 7. We have, as you've heard, amended the agenda to remove the one item of correspondence that we received. So there's no correspondence, which invites our action. That brings us to agenda item number 8, which allows council to consider and enact bylaws. As item 8.1, council is invited by bylaw approval to authorize the mayor and the clerk to promulgate a lease agreement with Huron Perth Centre for Children and Youth to expire on August 31st, 2023. Any questions about this quickly? All right. Do we have, can I invite a mover for this? Councillor Richardson, thank you. Councillor Anstell. So duly moved and seconded, the resolution, I suppose I should read that, that would be helpful, is that bylaw number 107-2022 being a bylaw to authorize the signing of a lease agreement with the Huron Perth Centre for Children and Youth be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed, and that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. And we had Richardson and Anstead as our movers and seconders. All right, any discussion or debate on this one? Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks, Mayor Todd. Just to clarify, 570 Main Street West, is that the former PUC building beside the pump, or where?
Next door.
Like beside the...
Yes, near the tennis courts, right next to the tennis courts. Any other questions or comments on this one before we have that vote? I'm not seeing any, so let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Next up is 8.2. On this one, we have a Council is asked to endorse by bylaw an amending agreement that will extend the contract for policing services with the Ontario Provincial Police. We discussed this at our last council meeting, as most of you will recall. And the resolution reads as follows, that bylaw number 108-2022 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an amending agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in Right of Ontario as represented by the Solicitor General be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, and the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk, and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I invite a mover for this one? Councillor Duncan, thank you, and Councillor Behrens will be our seconder. All right, any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And Councillor Behrens is expressing manually that she's in favor. So that is carried 9-0. Thank you. And item 8.3, Council is invited to endorse by bylaw a temporary short-term second dwelling unit with parties Jan and Johanna Loos to be located at 6205 Line 71 in North Perth. Any questions about this matter from Council? Thank you. So I'm going to read the bylaw. We know Councillor Duncan's our mover. As follows, the bylaw number 109-2022 being a bylaw to authorize the signing of an agreement with Jan Tunis Loos and Johanna Antonia Loos be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, and the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Duncan's our mover. Who will be our seconder? Councillor Rothwell. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. That moves us to item number 9 on our agenda. Are there any councillors wishing leave to give notice of motion this evening? Not seeing that, so let's move to item 10 on our agenda. For item 10.1, are there any announcements that would be of benefit to our community or that reflect well on North Perth at this time? Those who are connected remotely may request opportunity to speak through the text chat window, which the clerk is going to monitor. And of course, in the chamber, raise your hand if you would like to go. I see Councillor Andreessen. Let's have her first, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Kaysenberg. On the weekend, I had the great opportunity to go to the Canadian National Exhibition. And at that time, I was able to see the competition of the ambassador participants. There were ambassadors from across Ontario, from different agricultural societies. And here in North Perth, we had Mary Fizell, who represented the Listowel Agricultural Society. And during the competition, we were really, really honored to see her do so well that she placed as the second runner-up out of 31 contestants. And on top of that was named Miss Congeniality for the competition. This is a historic moment for the Listowel Agricultural Society. This young lady, Mary Fizell, actually has conquered a record where she actually placed the highest ever in the history of the Listowel Agricultural Society at this level of competition. So we are extremely proud of her. After the competition, she was whisked away with the other winners. Sutton Fair won the title of the CNE ambassador, and Arthur Fair won the first runner-up. So some local folks, also local fairs, were represented well at that competition. So we're very proud of Mary, and I know at the Listowel Agricultural Society they'll be celebrating this evening, I think. So yeah, I just wanted to share that announcement with our community.
Thank you very much. And I think on behalf of this council, we should have a round of applause. Councillor Behrens.
I just want to add, Mayor Kaysenberg, it has been council's history that when someone from our community does get recognized provincially, that we do present them with a certificate and a medallion for representing North Perth. I realized that recognized that she was representing the Listowel Agricultural Society, but she is an amazing representative and ambassador not just for agriculture or rural Ontario, but for the municipality of North Perth. So I think at some point in time, when it suits her busy schedule, perhaps we could take the opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. I was thinking that myself. Thank you very much for raising it. And we'll ask the clerk to draw the CAO's attention to this matter for near future action. I've had the privilege of getting to know Mary a little bit. The pandemic kind of keeps you from brushing shoulders with people as much as you might like, but I've watched her and she's been a graceful and gracious representative of our community, and you can see, I think all of us are beaming with pride at her success at that level. So, Mary, congratulations, and we're looking forward to seeing you in our chamber for a little treat in the near future. Thank you very much. Any other announcements? All right. Let's move forward to item 11 on the agenda. We don't have any matters this evening for closed session of council. That also means that for agenda item 12, there's nothing to report about because we didn't have that closed session. Council, as a mandated good practice, acts near the end of its meeting agenda to confirm all of its actions and business of its meeting through what is called the Confirmatory Bylaw. I have a draft of that for consideration at this point, as follows: that bylaw number 110-2022, being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth, be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed. And that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call for a mover on this? Councillor Richardson, thank you. And our seconder will be Councillor Anstead. Thank you. Any discussion or debate on this one? We're not seeing any, so let's have that vote. It's like we're having brownouts tonight with our technology. So Councillor Andreessen declares herself a yes. And it looks like we have the other votes, and that is now carried. Thank you. Councillors, we have completed deliberation and taken action on the business that was put before us tonight. That means that we can move to adjourn. I have a resolution for our consideration as follows: that the council meeting adjourns at 8:07 p.m. to meet again for general council business on Monday, September 12th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Richardson nodded his head first. I saw that. Councillor Seiler, we'll call you our seconder here. This is non-debatable, so let's have that vote. And Councillor, we're getting some more brownouts here. So Councillor Behrens and Councillor Anstead have declared themselves in favor. They're happy to adjourn, and with that, we have 9 votes in favor. That is carried. Council will meet again in chambers for our next regular meeting on Monday, September 12th. And until that date, this meeting is adjourned.